because I was a photographer and a friend of Susan and Teresa's at the time, they asked me to come and take photographs. And this, I believe, is perhaps the first women's night at the Holy City Zoo. And that was in December of 1979. And it was a Wednesday, and it was billed as Women's Night, comedians only, no cover. All right, thanks. Thanks for the big payday.
We
Right.
don't need to get paid.
What happened is there were very few women doing comedy. I mean, Ruby Cooper, Sandy Vance, Susan Healy, who was a member of Femprov, had started doing it pretty early on. Cindy McKay, did I say Carrie Snow? Anyway, there weren't that many women in comedy doing comedy at the time. So even during the process of auditioning, there was a point where I think, there was a break or something, and everybody was sort of sitting around going, probably eating snacks from next door at the grocery store or whatever, and just going, we're pretty funny. We should form our own group. And so Terry and Susan and Teresa and those three, I know, were doing workshops, and then they invited Pat along too. And Pat always tells the story that they invited her and she thought they were just joking. So she didn't show up at the first show. They decided to make their own improv group, which became Femprov, which some would say, what a rotten name for a group, but it worked. And we were very proud of it because it was, somewhat clever and used improv and feminine, whatever. Within this time period, Women's Night happened because there were probably more and more women trying to show up and sign up for open mics. And they just decided, hey, we can do this. We can actually have a full night. And I think
So Women's Night wasn't necessarily Femprov, it was female comics, or it was both?
It was both. We emceed ultimately. And because we were improvising, we could make up stuff to fill the time. And again, because there weren't that many women doing it, you maybe had, let's say, 5 or 6 women that were trying to fill an entire night of comedy, like an open mic-y kind of thing, right? Where it just goes on and on and on, right? I think it started at 8 o'clock, had to go till 2 a.m. There just weren't enough people to fill the bill.
And so wait. So you guys went from 8 o'clock to 2 a.m.?
Well, I think the club was open till that late. Yeah. It was regular bar. It was a bar, so they were open that late. I want to say Papaya Juice worked those hours too on the weekend. Maybe they would shut down after, 12 or something like that. And then they might bring up random stand-ups, or even stand-ups that were in Papaya Juice would come up and do their shtick after the fact, probably because they were so exhausted. That's a long night. I mean, I'm sure that we called early nights on those things because there just wasn't enough content or entertainment or people to fill the bill.
And so let me ask you this about the audiences. What were the audiences like for you guys? Especially, were they mostly women? Were they mostly men? Also, I think San Francisco audiences at that time, not necessarily now, but at that time, were some of the best audiences you could have. So can you speak to that stuff?
I would agree. I think the Holy City Zoo had sort of become a comedy showcase. I'm just looking at this flyer. Yeah, they in 1979 they were saying local and visiting professional comedians, and then of course Papaya Juice. It cost all of $2.50 to get in 1979, right? But for some reason they were making money hand over fist, and they had the weekend, which is when people went out. So I think initially on a Wednesday night there was probably a pretty sparse crowd, but warm bodies. And what a great proving ground for not only the women but Femprov to have live bodies to perform to, and not just being entertaining ourselves or our friends. As time went on, and not necessarily on Women's Night, but I think it was very mixed in the beginning, certainly. And then I think maybe girlfriends would drag their boyfriends to come. Maybe not, maybe they didn't need to be dragged, but there were girls on stage. Hey, I only remember it as mostly couples that were in the audience. And that's going back 40 years, Nina. I'm having a hard time remembering. They were incredibly appreciative. And again, because improv, you're coming out to the audience and asking for suggestions, and you're involving them in the show. You get an investment from the audience, which is what you depend on. That not only are they seeing you making it up on the spot, but they want to see their suggestion used, or they want to see you struggle, or they want to see, they're just as surprised by the funny that comes out as you are, because you literally have kind of disengaged your brain and just said, okay, let's see where this goes, kind of thing. And there's an interaction not only between the people on stage, but to the audience as well.